Hello and welcome to the Equine Science Talk International podcast channel. I'm Kate Farmer. Equine science isn't just about riding and horse health, it's also about management and protecting our horses. And a change in the EU law at the beginning of March 2025 could affect the way we do this in Europe, especially in remote rural areas. Under the new law, wolves are being categorised as protected rather than strictly protected as they were previously. The change has come about because of the threat that wolves as predators pose to domestic and farm animals, including horses, as well as to people. To look at this in detail, I'm joined by Equine Science Talk's Konstanze Krüger, Professor of Horse Management at Nürtingen-Geislingen University in Germany. She's also one of Europe's leading researchers into horse behaviour and welfare, and one of her specialist fields is the issues of wolves and equine management. Hello, Konstanze. Thank you for making time to chat about this.
Hello, Kate.
When we first started talking about this topic, I was thinking, wolves, horses, well, yes, theoretically predators, but is that really a topic for us in Europe? How did you become involved in the topic?
Well, actually, we started doing research in Italy in 2007 already, and wolves were always a topic in this area because they were never extinct. And so for me, it was just normal that we observed also wolves attacks on foals. And actually, when this topic became more interesting all over Europe, I was a little bit astonished that people really thought that's out of the scope, because for me, it was actually almost normal.
We tend to assume that these days there aren't really, in Europe certainly, there aren't predators on horses, but that's really not true. Is it only wolves or are there other predators as well?
Well, they are. It's limited in Europe. So basically, it's mostly wolves and sometimes also a bear. So just last year, we've been on an excursion with our students, and the people there in Italy in the mountains, they told us a bear just grabbed the foal and just took off again. And then, of course, we also have smaller carnivores, but they usually don't really hunt horses. They just eat the leftovers of the others. And of course, we also have dogs. And many people forget about this. And we have free running dogs, and then many accidents caused by this.
When you say dogs, you mean like people walking dogs, domestic dogs, or more feral
Well, it
dogs?
depends on the country, because we're talking about Europe in general. There are some countries in Europe that really have free-ranging dogs. So fertilized dogs that just ran off or something like this, and they may hunt. Also in Germany. So last year, there were several cases reported. Horses were hunted by dogs, also killed by dogs.
People think horses and dogs sort of go together because so many horse owners have dogs as well. But in fact, they're not really best of friends, are they?
Well, actually, the dog is a predator. And we don't give him canned food. He has to take care of this himself. And if he can, he has the same strategies than wolves. They prefer smaller prey. But if horses are easily accessible, they will also take a horse. So hunting in groups is also typical for dogs, and a horse would be no problem.
So from the horse's point of view, it would still see the dog as a predator, even though it's like the family pet.
That's pretty interesting, because I think horses have kind of the same strategy when they're confronted with wolves and with dogs, because horse owners in the north of Germany, they report very often on wolves crossing the pasture of horses, and horses just ignore them. And I think many of us also have seen videos of Africa where the lions pass through bison groups, and bisons just keep eating. They ignore the lions. And this seems to be the same also in wolves. So horses seem to have really good idea about when it starts to be dangerous. So if the dogs and the wolves are peaceful and they just pass by, it's okay. They just respect them, ignore them, or whatsoever. But if it comes to hunting, it's another story.
I find that very interesting because in a way, we notice this even in our own interactions with horses, that if you have a particular intent when you approach a horse, it'll behave quite differently. So, for example, horses that are completely tame and sweet and you can do anything with the owner, the vet turns up and they turn into dragons.
Yeah, maybe it's also a little bit about what many people tell about children or something like this. Like children can do anything with the horse, and then the owner comes and wants to really do something serious. The horse is a little bit tense. So maybe also this is the difference, that they really scan the importance of communication or the importance of reaction.
That would be a great topic for research.
Sure.
Okay, coming back to the wolves. Now, they've become a more controversial topic in Europe over recent years, in particular, I think in the last 25 years. The wolf populations have grown quite substantially. Can you explain a bit about how that has happened and where it's happened?
So actually in Europe, we always had some areas where there were wolves. For example, in the Abruzzi Mountains in Italy, they were never extinct. There were always a population of about 300 wolves, even though they were hunted very severely. And so they started spreading out from areas where they survived, basically. And so in most countries in Europe, they're coming either from the east, from Poland, Czechoslovakia, Romania, something like this, and also from Italy. So also in Italy, they started spreading out a lot. And it's even a problem or a discussion within the country, because also there they withdrew into remote areas in mountains or something like this. And now that they're protected, they start spreading out in all kind of areas. And all in a sudden, people see wolves at the beach. They have never seen them before. And so also here in Germany, we basically confronted with wolves coming from the east. So in east north of Germany, they started to settle down in former military areas, and they were just wolf heaven, because there was everything about small prey and also larger prey. And they just survived, settled down, had some families, some packs, and from there started spreading out.
Now, I was reading when I was doing some background reading before our chat today that in some areas of Germany, the concentration of wolves is higher than in Canada. Is that true?
Yeah, could be. And actually, what we find now is that wolves are in Europe much longer than we actually thought they were here. And because they were just in remote areas. And now as they start spreading out, cause more and more damage to the livestock, people got aware of it. And actually, most of the wolves, they're actually killed by car accidents. This is also where people started realizing that there are many wolves in Germany already, and also in other European countries.
So coming back to the horse point of view, as we mentioned, wolves are predators on horses, but a lot of the time there's not really much conflict. So how big a problem does this really present for horse owners, keepers, breeders?
Well, if we don't protect our horses, it's a serious problem, because there are some horse population in Europe that really have severe damage. For example, in the north of Spain and Portugal, there are some free-ranging horse populations, also in Italy. And it's already recorded or reported that they have more than 50% loss of their foals to wolves. And this is really severe, because if you just kind of think that you've got 200 mares running free over there, normally they have 100 foals, then it's only 40, 50. The rest are actually eaten. So these horses, they're usually kept for meat production, but still for the farmers there, of course, it's a reason for reconsidering whether they will continue breeding the horses.
What can they do to protect the horses? What are the different strategies and which ones work best?
This is actually what we did a lot of research on in the last couple of years, because it's also the point I was interested in. Because first time I approached the ministry in Germany in 2017, people just laughed at me and said, like, come on, horses are not really in danger. But it's not true, because we do also have some cases in Germany. It's like around 50 last year. So we need to really make up our mind what we can do. And I started student projects on this topic. And actually what turned out is like the presence of people is still the very best protection for all of our farm animals. And so we can try to keep animals closer to our homes, to our farms. That's the first strategy that already helps. So we saw also in other countries. or just keep mares that are foaling or close to foaling inside the stable, and let them go out again when the foals are a little bit older. All these kind of things is basically management aspects we can improve. And alongside this, we can also think about whether we will build some fences that are wolf deterrent, or keep dogs to just chase them off.
Does that work? Will a dog chase a wolf, where you would think that the wolf would be stronger, bigger, higher up the chain sort of thing?
Well, there's certain breeds. So we have guard dog breeds all over Europe, and especially in the Est and also in Italy, some in France. They will still bred for this purpose. And so they need to be a little bit stubborn and strong. But of course, it's also danger for them. So last year, also in Germany, I think there were also guard dogs killed by wolves. So they need to be trained. They need to be tough. They need to work in groups, and in countries with high wolf presence or high predator presence. Sometimes they even have chain collars with spikes to the outside for protection against wolves. And yes, of course, they do a good job. And it's interesting, it's not only against wolves, because people in Europe or in Germany keeping guard dogs, what they tell us very quite interesting. Animals are not stolen anymore. So some shepherds or some owners of poultry, they told us before, animals were constantly stolen, sometimes with the fence. So I think that's really, it makes sense. So if you have poultry, you also need a fence. So take both, it's better. This doesn't happen anymore if there is a guard dog inside the fence. So it helps on several levels. And actually also, when we had the former riding stable together with my husband, we already had guard dogs in 2004 because they poisoned horses in our stable. And so we also bought guard dogs for protection against human predators. It worked quite nicely.
What about donkeys? I believe I think it's in Turkey, they sometimes use donkeys to protect the sheep.
Well, this is communicated all over the world and all over Europe as well. And actually, very simple, it doesn't work. It's very, so the reason is the donkey is a very small flight animal as well. So he has nothing he can set against the pack of wolves. And actually already in Germany last year, 4 donkeys were killed. And also in Italy, they reported also, and they forgot some donkeys outside the wolf deterrent fence, and they were also killed. So the donkey has a different social system and a different behavior. So when he is attacked, he will stop in the beginning. And this helps against small predators, for example, jackals. So what was reported in North America, they were really helpful when it comes to attacks by jackals or some smaller carnivores. But in wolves, no. And they will be chased and eaten as the same as horses. So for example, last year in Germany, we had some losses in horses and donkeys. There were 4 donkeys. And if we consider it's only like maximum of 10,000 donkeys in Germany, 4 donkeys is already a lot. So actually, I start thinking about whether this is even an animal welfare issue, that when we propose donkeys to be used for wolf protection.
But for some of the people living in these wolf-intensive areas, and I'm thinking particularly about Italy, but I expect it applies to other places as well, the wolves are actually a good thing. They actually help protect the ecosystem where they are. So we've been talking mostly about the threat, but what about the positive side of having wolves around?
Well, they are protected in Europe because they are part of the ecosystem. And of course, they are also very helpful in terms of when it comes to pests spreading also the wild animal populations. Pig pests, for example. This is a really difficult topic right now in Germany because it spreads all over the country again. It infects the wild boar, and the wild boar then finally spread it to the pig populations. And a wolf would just kind of chase an ill boar for 1 or 2 days, and then the problem is solved. While the hunter has to stay in the forest for 2 weeks until he will finally find the pig which already spread, or the wild boar which already spread the pest all over the place.
Sorry to break in, Konstanze. Just to be absolutely clear, pig pest is what is usually called swine fever in English. Just wanted to clear that up. Okay, thanks. Carry on.
So really, kind of diminishing these animal diseases or coming from wild living animals is really helpful. And it's quite interesting that even when we talk to shepherds in Italy, they were always confronted with losses they had to wolves. They immediately told us, yes, but the animals are protected against diseases coming from the wild animals by the wolves. So they really saw this also as a benefit.
As of March 2025, the EU changes the status of wolves from being strictly protected to being just protected. What does that mean, and what effect is it likely to have?
Well, strictly speaking, right now it's forbidden to kill any wolf in any case. And this was not really taken literally by many European countries also in the last years. So, for example, Swiss also decided no, they will not stick to this, and they gave wolves free for hunting the last year. I think more than 40 were killed. And also France, there were actually 209 wolves given free for hunting. And we have other examples also in Norway or something like this. And this was really difficult because the wolf is strictly protected, but they caused a lot of damage in some areas. And so the governments needed to find some solutions. And now when we downgrade the support or the protection of the wolf, it starts to be legal that some areas can find solutions. They're still protected, but they're not strictly protected anymore. And it is possible for the government to say, okay, this wolf killed so many farm animals, we have to take him out. We have to give him free for shooting.
So do you think that this change in the categorization is a good thing?
Or we will see whether it works out. But killing wolves is not very easy because usually they live in a pack that works very nicely. So we have the alpha pair, the mother and the father, and we have the puppies. And the puppies cannot hunt by themselves. They need the pack to hunt. And if some animals start hunting farm animals, it's also the alpha animal. And we tend to shoot these animals that seem to be obvious that they hunt farm animals. Left over are the puppies in the forest, and they cannot hunt by themselves. What will they do? They go in the next village and see what's left over at the farms. And on the way, maybe they will also find a small lamb or something like this and take this. So this has been proven already in some areas that it may even increase the damage if we start hunting the alpha wolves or the alpha couple. So it needs a lot of preparation, a lot of work to really decide which wolf need to be taken out. So single wolves, no problem. But if it comes to alpha couples, maybe it makes more sense to really take out the whole pack. But also this needs to be communicated with the public because some people will not like it to really just discussing that we have to take out or kill the whole pack if only the alpha couple started hunting farm animals.
So in your opinion, do you think we'd actually be better to leave them strictly protected and do more to protect the farm animals than the horses?
Well, actually, I cannot tell. So, because we need to see how this develops, whether the governments really find good solutions or not. Because there are some societies all over Europe that already started scanning wolves and helping the governments also to come to a good decision. And if this network would really do some serious and good work in terms of selecting wolves which can stay and wolves which need to be taken out. For them, it will be easier now to come up with some solutions. But just telling, okay, this years we have so many wolves, you can just shoot 1,000 or something like this. This doesn't work. So it needs to be a strict management system that needs to be built up to really manage the wolves. But there are many organizations already now doing good work, and let's see how it develops.
But for the average horse rider, horse owner, it's not something that we need to worry about too much in terms of our horses, or is it? Is it something that could potentially be a threat for me with my horses near Vienna?
Well, actually, I think what we always have to keep in mind is people are really the best protection for our farm animals. So if horses are close to us, they're safe. If the dogs are close to us, they're safe. Also keep small children close to their parents. So these aspects need to be considered more. And I will never forget the first years when we went with the students to Italy, and the students asked the people in the nature conservation areas whether children could go out in the forest alone. And they were really astonished, like, what do children do in the forest alone? And here I would say in Germany or Central Europe, for us, it was normal. When we were children, we were going out in the forest alone. And so we have to reconsider some aspects now. And also dogs, keep the dogs when we're in the forest. Don't let them go running off, and these kind of things. So things are changing, of course, and it's difficult for the society to really also adapt to this. And of course, it's always also a society decision whether we want it that way or not.
It's fascinating. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me for the talk.
I hope you found this topic interesting. If so, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the Equine Science Talk International channel, and check out our video on horses and wolves that looks in detail at the situation in Italy. Do let us know in the comments if there are any topics you'd like us to discuss in future episodes, and we'll be back soon. Bye for now.